How we doing this month?
I'm doing good. How y'all doing?
All right.
Good. I know. I hear you. Huh? I know. I know. Worked on the stock.
You been doing this all your life? Is this the only work you do?
I used to work at a shipyard, then I come here.
If something does happen to the shrimping industry down here, do you have other work you can do?
We fuck.
Say what now?
We fuck.
Anything you could say to President Obama right now, what would it be?
I'd say stop acting like you work for BP. That's what I would say. I'd say rein in all your federal agencies that are down here trying to snowball us. Rein in the Coast Guard. Rein in the DEQs. Rein in all these local politicians, because the buck stops with you. I'm so tired of hearing the Coast Guard tell me that it's just a light sheen on the water. If I produce, as a commercial fisherman, if I produce a sheen on the water anywhere, I'm in violation of the Clean Water Act. I'm subject to a $25,000 fine. So how come when BP has produced a 500-mile sheen in the Gulf of Mexico, it's just a sheen now? I had a commander in the Coast Guard tell me that, oh, it's a little 4-mile by 4-mile spill of thick water, and the rest of it is just a little light sheen. That's all, nothing to worry about. Well, if it's nothing to worry about, how come you'd slap me with a $25,000 fine? That's what I'd like to know. And another thing I'd like to ask Mr. Obama, he loves to incorporate his children into his daily lives, which is right. We incorporate our children in our daily lives and my grandchildren. I always hear about what he tells Leah and what Leah says to him. I want to ask him, I want him to tell me how I'm supposed to tell my grandson that this life he loves so dearly and is so entrenched in might not be here for him in the future. How would he tell his daughter that? I want him to tell me how I'm going to explain this to my grandchildren, that this bayou life that we love so much might not be here anymore. It might not exist anymore. And that it didn't have to happen. It happened because of corporate greed. It happened because of government intertwined with corporations and with big oil. That did not have to happen out there. That did not have to happen. So stop acting like you work by BP. Thank you.
By changing their way of life and what they're raised to do, will this change the children's upbringing?
Sure. I think that you can lose these kids. I think about Will Scotty, well, all of the grandchildren, but Will Scotty in particular. You know, he doesn't even like to leave the bayou. I think that's how society starts breaking down. I mean, you can lose him. He can be a little lost child. This is his life. And then what is he going to do? If he can't do this, what is he going to do? You know? I think you can lose him. You can lose him to drugs and crime and everything else if they can't.
It's really hard for people to understand that don't live here the life we lead. We are so intertwined with this land, and it's like this bayou water pumps in our veins. It's who we are and what defines our daily lives and what we do and who we are, and we pass that on to these kids. And people probably 80–90% of people in America don't live like that anymore. They live in suburbs. They live in cities. This way of life was lost to America a long time ago, but there's still some of us that cling to it. You know, commercial fishermen in particular, farmers. I mean, we live off the land. That's what we do. So if you take that from us, I mean, I don't work 9 to 5. I don't define my week Monday through Friday. My week is defined by where the moon is. What's the tide doing that day? How's the weather? Is it going to rain? Are there squalls around? Is there a storm coming? Is the tide high? Is the tide low? I mean, that's what I look at in my daily life. I very rarely look at a watch. I don't have to, because what I do for a living is defined by how much sun is left in the sky, or when the moon's going to go down at night and the tide's going to stop running. That defines who we are. I mean, so we're just so intertwined with the doings of Mother Nature, you know, and around here that I mean, even the thought of this not being here anymore, it's heartbreaking for me.
And he's just teaching Scott now. Scott has been going trawling and fishing his whole life since he was in diapers. He'll tell you that.
No, and Scott's one. And we have 15 grandchildren. Now, granted, some of them are going to go to college. Some of them will leave this bayou. But there's 3 or 4 of them that will never leave this bayou. They'll make their homes and their lives here, and they're just as intertwined. You know, they're bayou boys. They're not going anywhere. But now, if this is destroyed by the BP oil spill, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to them. I don't know. I'm agonizing over it. It's like ripping my heart out right now.
The reason Scotty wanted to go out with us, because on the boat again today, is Mike's been teaching him the last few years. When he was 8, they took the wheels off his little pirogue and put it in the water and, you know, patched it up. Put it in the water and taught him how to paddle it up and down this bayou right here.
For anybody that doesn't know what a pirogue is, that's a pirogue. You can pan over there. It's the little boats that we paddle around in.
It's
and
like
that all
a
the
canoe,
kids have around here. It's just an indigenous boat to South Louisiana.
And he's been doing that when he was 8. They said, well, now you're old enough to learn how to paddle your pirogue. We'll take the wheels off of it, because his other papa made it for him for his 3rd birthday, and his great-grandpa made him a little crab trap so he could, and they put wheels so he wouldn't launch it in the water, so he could tow it around. But they took it off when he was 8 and taught him how to paddle up and down here, and then he could launch it, put his fishing pole in, and he could fish right here in front. He had limitations. He could go to the closed end and not pass the next door neighbor so we could see him. And now he just turned 12 in March, and so the last couple of years Mike's been teaching him how to drive the flatboat with the outboard motor to get around and to learn the waters out there. That's what he's been doing. And so now he wants to go out there, now that he's old enough, to start learning and look at the landmarks and learning where he is out there. So every time we go out in the boat, he wants to be in there all summer long so he can learn, you know, learn that. And that's his day-to-day life. This is the things he's expecting to do. These are milestones that these kids, you know, pass up as they're growing into manhood, this child. You know, this is another step for him. And now it's just full of oil out there. He wants to go out and he's talking about the oil, but he just has no idea, you know.
This is the first year since he has been born that he's not going to shrimp. He has been on that shrimp boat every year, every shrimp season since he was born, and that's the truth. He was on there in diapers. He was not even a year old. He laid in that bunk in diapers. And this is his first year in his life, in his little life, that he's not going to shrimp. And these kids wait all winter for shrimp season. It's just who they are. They got to go shrimping. And now he can't understand for the life of him why we're not going to shrimp this year.